Does your average painting experience look something like this?
Know your fucking place, trash.
Well, fear not, because everyone has been there, and I'm going to be sharing some very devious tricks that you can use to immediately improve your art. Tried and tested by yours truly, and don't worry, I'm not going to tell you to use references, even though you absolutely should, but I think we all know that one by now. The first one is going to surprise you because you may think rendering is the most important part to actually improving your art and making it look fancier. But from personal experience, and this painting is exactly the painting that I wanted to use to prove this, less is sometimes more, especially when it comes to details. I wanted it to look like a messy traditional painting for a reason, because the better you are at minimizing the amount of detail, the better you are at actually breaking down the picture that you're trying to replicate and understanding what actually makes the picture readable, because that's all you need. If you can tell what you're looking at, the painting is good. And I actually rarely draw people, so using this approach was helpful to not get me to spiral, because I can't get every single pore in the right place. And who wants their pores to be visible anyway? Let's be real. You know what's hilarious? I have a script right next to me, and I'm already off script. I never even look at it, so I don't know what I'm talking about, if I'm being so honest. I guess that's the charm. That's why you're here. Anyways, moving on. The most important part that makes the picture readable is the lighting. And if you don't have enough contrast in your pieces, they are going to look flat and not as interesting. So make sure you have very dark shadows and very bright highlights. And the most broken way to render light is actually not to shade by adding the shadows, but by adding the light instead. And how you do that is you color with the darkest color first, and then you gradually add the lighting, thinking about the direction it's coming from and how it's hitting the form of the thing you're drawing. And this painting of mine is the best example of that so far. The star the dragon is holding is the light source, and you can see that all of the light that's hitting the dragon is coming from that direction, and it's not in the back. Later I go crazy with the rendering, but you can tell what you're looking at so far, and if I stopped right here, when you look at it from afar, you can tell exactly what it is. It's a dragon in a galaxy, lit by the star. So just zoom out when you're rendering and think if that detail you want to add is actually even that important. If it is to you, definitely pop off, queen, but if not, no one's gonna notice, so just take that as you will. I can bet that nobody noticed that I added a star in the dragon's eye instead of the pupil. So that's what I'm talking about. Make your art readable, not detailed. Period. Now you may be wondering, how do I even pick the right color for my shadows? Well, that's the next part of this. Can I even call it a tutorial? I suppose. See, this is the humble color wheel. We've all seen it, but do you know what these things mean? The color you pick is the hue. This is the value, that's how light or dark your color is. And then we have the saturation, that's how bright the color is, or how saturated it is. As an example, we are going to pick the color of the shadow of the dragon, for example. On the color wheel, this falls somewhere between the blue and gray. The shadow is blue because the lighting in the picture is blue. That's how I went about it. But when you pick the lighter color, the part where the lighting is, you're gonna see it's about the same. The thing that really matters is not the color, it's the value. So make sure the variation is mostly in the values that you use for different parts of your drawing. The shadows should be the darkest, and obviously the lighting the lightest. And by all means, don't be afraid to move the hue around a little bit, because that makes the colors look more interesting and alive. Speaking of the color wheel and color palettes, you can see that the whole painting is blue, And that's why his face stands out and is immediately drawing your attention, because his face is in the orange, and that's directly opposite of the blue. So pay attention to colors when it comes to framing. You can put a contrasting color around the thing you want your viewer to focus on. Next thing you can do is, if you feel like your painting is kind of flat and it's missing something, try adding some funky textures to it. You can play around with this, you don't have to add screen tones, but this is how you can do that if that's something that you want to do. Just pick the one that suits your art style the most, play around with them. There are plenty to choose from, so you won't get bored, and definitely keep those on a separate layer because you can ruin your entire rendering unless you want your rendering to be entirely screen toned. I guess that's a cool look too. Another way you can add texture is by adding random lines with your brush. These just add so much personality to your art and they can be unique to you. I like using these random hatch marks. It makes the fabric look a little bit worn out. And last but not least, do not limit yourself to a single brush. There are so many fun textured brushes that you can use to add texture. These are some of my custom brushes, if you feel like finding them. It's not the brush, it's the artist, but I mostly use the mechanical pencil for sketching, and I use the watercolor for rendering. This changes though, and I like to experiment, and that's the most important thing you should do to improve. You have to experiment, and don't be afraid of making shitty art and art that you're not going to show anybody, because that's where most of the improvement happens. I and many other artists who are actually serious about their stuff have sketchbooks filled with absolute horrid crap you're never gonna see unless you join my Patreon. Shameless self-promo, I guess. But yeah, if you want exclusive tutorials and art I don't post anywhere else, make sure to become a Patreon member. That's in the description. It's a great way for people who want to support the channel to do so. But your viewership and comments and support mean just as much to me. So I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. The last piece of advice I want to leave you with is definitely don't be afraid to draw what you like. Don't draw what you think people want to see. Draw what makes you interested in drawing in the first place. Whether that be dragons, anime characters, it does not matter. If you think somebody is cringing at you, you should cringe back because they don't have hobbies and you're cool. So yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Bye!